The kids are thrilled with your birthday present.
Oh, yeah, definitely wearing this. Are you serious?
Serious.
Hell yeah! Oh my goodness!
Cece got her ice.
June 7th. Oh my goodness, I gotta take that day off and the day after off. Hell yeah!
The street was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels ordinary enough to ignore. Neatly trimmed lawns, parked cars resting under streetlights, houses holding families inside them, all believing they were safe. In Frederick, Colorado, this was just another suburban neighborhood where nothing ever seemed out of place. And in one of those houses lived a man named Chris Watts, a man most people barely noticed. He was soft-spoken, polite, predictable. A husband. A father. Someone you'd never look at twice. Chris lived there with his wife, Shannon Watts. She was the opposite of invisible. Shannon was vibrant, outspoken, and deeply involved in sharing her life online. Her social media painted a picture of love, ambition, and family, morning routines, smiling children, hopeful plans. Their daughters, Bella and Celeste, were full of life, their laughter captured in short videos that felt harmless, even joyful. And soon, there would be another child. Shannon was pregnant, expecting a baby boy. From the outside, this family looked complete. But appearances are careful things. They show what people want you to see, not what's actually there. Behind closed doors, the marriage was fracturing. Financial pressure lingered. Emotional distance grew. And while Shannon believed they were working through their problems, Chris had already begun drifting somewhere else, mentally, emotionally, and eventually into a secret that would change everything. It's unsettling to realize how often darkness hides behind routine. The same man who tucked his children into bed, who kissed his wife goodbye, was quietly detaching from the life he'd built. No violence. No warnings. Just silence where love used to be. Stories like this are uncomfortable, but they matter. If you're drawn to uncovering the truth beneath ordinary lives, this is where dark evidence exists, so take a moment to like and subscribe, not for the algorithm, but to stay with the story as it unfolds. On the night of August 12, 2018, Shannon returned home from a business trip. The house was dark. The neighborhood was still. She walked through the front door, believing she was safe. Believing tomorrow would come. She was wrong. The hours after midnight are when the world feels suspended, when most people are asleep and decisions made in silence can never be taken back. Inside the Watts home, the air was heavy, not with noise, but with finality. While the neighborhood rested, something irreversible was unfolding behind closed doors. There were no screams heard, no alarms triggered, no sign from the outside that a family was being erased one life at a time. By the time the sun began to rise, Chris Watts was already moving with a sense of purpose that felt disturbingly ordinary. Security cameras would later show him backing his truck into the driveway, the same truck he used every day for work. His movements were methodical, almost routine, as if he were preparing for just another shift. The normalcy of it all made the truth even more horrifying. He drove away from the house while the rest of the street carried on in ignorance. Traffic flowed. People woke up. Coffee brewed. And miles away, at an isolated oil site surrounded by open land and steel tanks, the final acts of concealment took place. This was not a place of emotion or hesitation. It was a place chosen for secrecy, for silence, for the belief that what was done could remain hidden forever. What makes this moment so disturbing is not only what happened, but how easily life continued afterward. Chris returned home, showered, dressed, and went to work. No visible panic. No breakdown. Just a man stepping back into his routine, as though nothing had changed at all. Cases like this force us to confront uncomfortable truths about the masks people wear every day. And if this story makes you uneasy, consider sharing it, because awareness begins when we stop looking away. By mid-morning, Chris would stand in his driveway again, this time speaking to police, pretending not to know where his family was. The house was empty. The beds untouched. And the lie was about to begin unraveling. Because the quiet of that early morning didn't last. And neither would the truth he was trying to bury. Concern doesn't arrive all at once. Sometimes it starts as a feeling that something is simply wrong. When Shannon failed to respond to messages and calls, it was her closest friend who noticed first. The silence didn't fit. Shannon was never unreachable, never careless, especially while pregnant. Within hours, that unease turned into action, and police were standing inside the Watts home, their body cameras capturing what would soon become crucial evidence. Chris Watts greeted them calmly. Too calmly. He spoke in measured sentences, hands resting at his sides, explaining that his wife had taken the girls to a friend's house after an emotional conversation. He said he didn't know where they were. The house told a different story. Shannon's car was still in the garage. Her purse, phone, and medication were untouched. The children's blankets were still there. Nothing suggested a planned departure. Outside, neighbors were asked questions. One of them mentioned a security camera. The footage showed Chris backing his truck into the driveway in the early morning hours, something he claimed he never did. As the video played, the mood shifted. Words slowed. Explanations became thinner. The pieces no longer fit together the way he wanted them to. Then came the television interview. Chris stood in front of his house, pleading for his family's safe return. His voice was steady, but something felt hollow. No urgency. No fear. Just carefully chosen words. Many who watched felt it instantly, that unsettling sense that the performance didn't match the situation. If you're watching this and something about his behavior feels off to you, you're not alone. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Sometimes truth reveals itself through collective observation. Soon, investigators suggested a polygraph test. Chris agreed without hesitation, as if confidence alone could protect him. But behind closed doors, the pressure began to crack the image he was trying to maintain. Because lies require constant effort, and the truth has a way of pushing back. By the end of that day, the calm facade was starting to slip. And the story Chris Watts had been telling was running out of places to hide. The room was quiet, stripped of comfort, designed to leave nowhere to escape but inward. Chris Watts sat across from investigators, wires attached, questions measured and deliberate. The polygraph test wasn't about technology alone, it was about pressure, about watching someone try to hold a story together while the truth pushed against it. With every question, his confidence faded. His answers came too fast, then too slow. His breathing changed. The machine registered what his words tried to conceal. When the test ended, the verdict was clear. Deception. And with that single word, the version of reality Chris had been selling began to collapse. Confronted by investigators, he shifted his story, grasping for anything that might lessen the weight of what he'd done. That's when he told the lie that would define him forever. He claimed Shannon had harmed the children, and that he had reacted in a moment of rage. But lies like that don't survive evidence. They unravel under scrutiny. Investigators dismantled his claim piece by piece, exposing its impossibility. There were no signs of struggle that matched his story. No proof to support the blame he tried to shift. Only silence where excuses should have been. As the interrogation continued, something darker emerged: not panic, not grief, but calculation. The focus wasn't on loss. It was on consequences. On how this would affect him. If you're finding this analysis unsettling, take a moment to like and subscribe to Dark Evidence, where stories aren't rushed and truth is allowed to breathe. Eventually, the weight became too heavy. Chris admitted responsibility. Not with tears or visible remorse, but with a flat acceptance that felt almost detached. Soon after, search teams were directed to the oil site. What they found there ended all remaining doubt and erased every false narrative he had tried to build. By the time the sun set that day, the truth was no longer hidden. And the man who once seemed invisible was finally exposed fully, and forever. The courtroom was filled with a silence that carried more weight than words ever could. Families sat divided by grief, by anger, by the knowledge that nothing said in this room could undo what had already been done. Chris Watts stood before the judge, no longer a husband or a father, but a man facing the consequences of his own choices. There were no dramatic outbursts, no last-minute revelations, only finality. One by one, the charges were read. The lives taken. The futures erased. The sentence followed soon after: multiple life terms, no possibility of parole. A punishment meant not to balance the scale, because nothing could, but to ensure the harm he caused would never be repeated. As he was led away, the public was left with questions that still linger today. What makes this case so haunting isn't just the brutality of the crime, but the absence of a clear emotional motive. There was no history of violence. No explosive rage witnessed by others. Only a quiet decision driven by selfishness and the desire for a different life. It forces us to confront an unsettling truth that sometimes, monsters don't look like monsters at all. Cases like this continue to draw attention because they challenge how we understand trust, intimacy, and warning signs. If this story has stayed with you, share your thoughts in the comments, and share this video so others can reflect on it. 2. Conversations like these matter more than we realize. As time passes, the house in Frederick stands empty, but the questions remain very much alive. Could this have been prevented? Were there signs that went unnoticed? Or was this darkness always there, waiting for the right moment to surface? So as you reflect on the story of Chris Watts, consider this. If someone can live beside you, love beside you, and still hide something this dark, how well do we ever truly know the people we trust the most?